Hello and welcome to the show. I have a very special guest tonight, Travis Walton. He's been on a number of times before. The last time he was on is when I was celebrating my 10th anniversary. So that was back in 2021 in November. But anyway, I've seen him at a few events and looking forward to going to the summit coming up here. Let me just share the screen here. This is coming up on I want to say the 17th of October through the 20th. And so this page is shared in the show notes down below. And we have David Childress, Ron James, Stacy Wright, Melinda Leslie, Don Schmidt, Jennifer Stein, and of course, Travis Walton, all going to be there. And that is in Sedona, the beautiful town of Sedona, Arizona. I'm really looking forward to that. So I've had a lot of conversations with Travis over the years, and I got to tell you, I've always been impressed with him, and I totally, believe his story. I've sat face to face to him. He's a very intelligent man, very nice guy, and I've enjoyed, talking to him over the years. And what an event happened back in November 5th, 1975. So the Sedona Summit is, a few weeks earlier than that, but that's a celebration of 50 years. So I'm going to be asking him, for a lot of reflecting on the last 50 years and what it's been like for him. And anyway, it's without further ado, I'm going to bring him in, and we can expect a lot. And Sam Moranto, thank you for coming in as a pitch hitter. I see you down there. We did get Travis to come in, but I do want to thank you, and I'll be getting back to you next time, Sam. Thanks so much for offering to be a pinch hitter. And anyway, let's bring Travis in, and welcome, Travis. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, I like the beard. Now you're really looking like a lumberjack. It's a really good look for you, though.
I don't know. I get mixed reviews.
Oh no, I like it. I like it. So yeah, so 50 years. It's so hard to believe. That the time is. I know. I just, there's 50-year reunions I'm hearing of. High school reunions, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, the time has certainly gone by, and you had in between, you had a professional career, and now you're retired. But I got to say, are you looking forward to the summit? Is this something you look forward to, these summits, anniversary summits?
Well, since it's in front of me date-wise, of course I'm looking forward to it. It's what's next, I guess. It's the big one.
Yeah. And I know I want to thank you for being here. I know that you were traveling and you're tired, and so I really do appreciate you, making an effort and being here. I do appreciate that very much. And so right now in Arizona, do you live anywhere near Snowflake where the event happened?
I am living in Snowflake right now.
Oh, you are?
The event actually happened south of Heber, out in the forest.
Oh, that's right. Heber, right. I remember so it was 10 years ago, I talked to you at the location on the anniversary night. I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, that was, that time has just flown by, and I know there's a lot of people that have some questions for you. Someone just, wrote me something just a couple of minutes ago that made me think. I try to ask you some unusual questions when I've had you on before. I thought, what could I ask Travis that no one asked him before? And one of the things is food. Do you remember eating any food of any type?
No, I was not fed. My conscious period was pretty much dominated by hysteria.
I can understand that. Just certainly understand that. And do you remember anything at all like that? As far as feeling hunger or anything like that?
I felt injured and hypoxic. I felt like I was suffocating.
Right.
I don't know if that was the atmosphere in that particular craft at the moment, or if that was just an effect of the injury of being hit by that blast of energy.
Right. And I mean, if you really think about it, for them to get like an oxygen level right for another species, just to say they are from some other place. That would be really tricky to try to figure all that out. But I remember you saying that you walked out into like this big hangar. It seemed like that type of.
Yeah.
Right? Was the air still like that? Did you feel like the air was still hard to breathe then? There.
No, it seemed a lot fresher, a lot easier in that department, but I was still felt pain and injury.
Mm. And now you've reflecting on this over the years. I know you've come to believe that you feel like it was more of a rescue mission. That
Yeah, in
we're probably.
hindsight,
Mhm.
yeah. Uh,
And yeah.
I just don't think that they intended to just fire a weapon at me. Uh, uh, I'm sure they would have easier ways to render me controllable without
Right.
something so destructive.
Now, let me ask, if we go back to November 5th, 1975, when you jump out of the truck and you're running toward it, if you had that to do all over again, in other words, would you do it?
No, I wouldn't. I regret that. And, it was a life-changing impulse, a rather foolish impulse that derailed my life, so to speak.
And so how much, let's see, I know when I talked to you, I think the very first time you told me that you had to step away from this for some periods of time and people were attacking you. And, now it's online and people can attack viciously, but this is going way back. Um, do you still feel like you have to step away from the whole situation at times?
Well, for the most part, anybody that thinks they're getting to me online is they're failing miserably because I don't follow it at all. They
Good.
can see what they
Yep.
want. I'll never see it. But I think over time, the evidence has been analyzed and compiled in a way alongside of the fact that much of the disparaging things, the negative comments have been disproved. Some of the debunkers have been totally discredited by telling outright lies. And so, the situation is what it is. It's sort of more of a steady state now because in the realm of attacks, they've got nothing new to say, and most of it's been refuted already anyway. If you want to say, well, it's impossible for there to be any other life in the universe but humans, you're entitled to your little comfort belief, but it's not in keeping with just common sense. The universe is far too big for that. Wouldn't that be a miraculous coincidence for there to be literally trillions and trillions of stars with planets going around them, and this is the only one with life? Some of these people seem to think so.
Yeah, this is a great quote here, and I keep it up on here because I really love it. Arthur C. Clarke made this quote: "Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying." I've always loved that quote.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it would be if we were totally alone. I mean, that would be pretty lonely and a lot of
Well,
empty
that
space.
was a kind of a wise way for him to straddle the issue.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm going to say 99.9% of the people know about your incident, but I would like to just walk through it quickly. I know you've told it probably 100,000 times already, but so 1975, you're clearing lumber up and, well, I'll let you, if you can just do like a quick nutshell, because there are a lot of first time listeners to this show and other
Well,
shows.
they may have seen the movie in which things have been changed a bit. It was a crew of 7 men, not 5.
Mhm.
They tried to oversimplify some things in the movie just to make it easier to tell. But 7 of us leaving work saw a glow coming through the trees. At first, thinking it may be deer hunters camped out there, but very quickly came through the trees to where we could see clearly this spacecraft hovering there. I reacted to it much like I would if I was reacting to the sighting a deer or something, then it would take off and be gone in a second. So I jumped out and headed towards it thinking it would just be gone. And it didn't take off. And then because of the reaction of the crew and the things they were calling out, I was sort of into an embarrassing situation where, I needed to turn around and head back to the truck immediately. But I did not. And the craft started to move, got louder. And I jumped for cover behind a log and then, followed through with the effort to stand up, run back to the truck. But that brought me to the closest point near the craft. And that's when that blast of energy hit me. I think it was some kind of a accidental discharge, but I didn't see the beam. The crew described it. Some of them describing it as a foot-wide beam, some describing it as a long blue flame, but incredibly blindingly bright and powerful, sort of almost an explosion that threw me through the air. And they say they were yelling at each other, it killed him, he's dead. So, I don't find fault with my crewmates for leaving the scene at that moment because they just thought they saw somebody get killed and they could be next. So they weren't, there was no point in trying to rescue me. It was over for me. In the movie, when Mike pulls over and everybody's arguing, just keep going, let's not go back. In the movie they had, Mike said, well, whoever doesn't want to go with us can wait here and we'll pick you up when we come back. That really happened. But in real life, nobody got out of the truck and to wait alone in the dark while everybody else went back. Mike and all of the crew went back to see if they could help or find me alive, which they did not.
Wow. Yeah. And then as far as the different things in the movie, Fire in the Sky, besides what you just mentioned, I believe you told me at one point that, there was no such thing as like that cocoon thing that they had going on in the movie. It's been a long time since I've watched the movie, but I remember you saying that, there were definitely some things that were in the movie that did not happen.
Yeah, when I was provided with a copy of the script, they left out the part aboard the craft. Probably, I think, knowing that I would be, object most vehemently about that great departure from what happened.
Yeah.
But we're working on a remake, and it'll be a whole new deal. Not going to focus in on the fear factor, the invading aliens sort of thing, to what I think is more aligned with what really happened there. I think that the accidental discharge injured or nearly killed me, and that they took me aboard in order to repair something that only they could do.
Mm-hmm. When you think back on the beings themselves, do you remember thinking that did they show any type of emotion or anything that you could actually detect?
No, they didn't, and, as humans, when we don't see any facial expression, we interpret that as hostility. But it came to me after a number of years that if they're truly telepathic, as everybody seems to know they are, the facial expressions are obsolete. So they would not make smiles or frowns or any sort of reassuring expressions, because between themselves, it's all telepathic and probably richer and more complete than any animated expressions like smiles and whatnot would provide.
Now, did you feel as though they may be possibly, I don't know what other way to put it, but reading your mind?
I've heard much lore on this subject that they are telepathic in that sense, but it's possible that in this case the energy had scrambled my brains to the extent that it wasn't working. They were unable to send any message or control me telepathically, so that required the assistance of some entity that I would accept help from, which something that looked human. And if it was people, a person, could be, some earth-based agency assisting them. I was only too eager to cooperate with what I thought was a rescue. And this human-looking individual got me out of that craft. But whether it was a simulation or a species of beings that look very much like humans, I don't know. But I couldn't get any verbal response at all. At first, I accepted that because the first individual was wearing a helmet. But when he took me to some others of his group that were not wearing helmets, I continued my raving, ranting, and screaming, for an explanation about this fearsome experience I just had. And I wasn't getting any there, so I started to resist them too. But I was in a very injured and weakened condition, and they were able to overpower me and rendered me unconscious with some kind of a gas, I think.
I remember you said they were extraordinarily beautiful looking features too. They had striking looking people or whatever they were, right?
Looking very healthy, very perfect. So, that is furthering suggesting that perhaps it was something that they created in order to get my cooperation.
Wow. When I've talked to Alan Bean, he was the fourth man on the moon and he walked on the moon. And I asked him a question like, I try to empathize with what it would be like in a situation like that. And I said to him, if I were you, the whole time I was looking up at the big blue ball or marble, whatever you want to call it, I'd be thinking, I want to get back there. I mean, I just want to be back on the ground. And he said, no, you just do what the tasks that are set in front of you. And, you just do that. And then, you, in the back of your mind, that you're going to get back. I mean, that's the only way you can do something like that. But did you have the feeling the whole time you were in the craft or whatever it was that, am I ever going to get back?
Well, I was definitely totally terrified in a totally unfamiliar environment. And, mostly in a panic about what had just happened to me and what was going on. So I didn't have any time to sort of reminisce or philosophize about my situation. I was just wanting to know, what are you doing to me? What is this all about?
Yeah. I mean, fearing for your life times 10, basically, I would imagine. So here's a question. Did they seem biological or drone-like?
They seemed biological.
And I mean that's a lot of times you'll hear people like, I'm going to say, like when I interviewed Seth Shostak from SETI, he would say like, there's no way something biological could get here. Of course, he's thinking on the terms of physics that we know for space travel and all that. But
yeah, that's one of the big mistakes. People judge this whole thing by in terms of our level, our knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
humans have been here for a few hundred years, and
Yeah.
obviously it's possible for there to be planets where the intelligent beings have been there for thousands or millions of years. I mean, think about it. The dinosaurs dominated the planet for hundreds of millions
Hmm.
of years with no humans. And then we
Right.
come along, we're here for a blip, and we have the arrogance to presume that, well, there couldn't be anything more advanced than what we can conceive of. When a few hundred
Exactly.
years ago, the best we knew was fire. That was the most
Yeah.
technological thing we had.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We're always thinking that we're on the pinnacle of knowledge. And, I mean, it is ridiculous. You're
Modern.
right.
They use the word modern. uh,
Yeah.
will they call this modern 100 years from now? I don't think so.
So someone wrote this question. I thought it was pretty interesting. If you had been in their place, an advanced species abducting a human, what do you think the questions about you might have been?
Well, if it was an abduction, they would wonder all kinds of things. And as a matter of fact, they even use that in one of the trailers for the movies. What is it? What is it like? What does it do? you know, these are the questions you might ask about a human being if you'd never seen one before. Well, I think that that's really not the situation we are in with these beings. I think they've been observing us interacting for a long time. This is just my own private thinking. They didn't tell me anything about that.
Hmm.
But, hundreds of years or many, many years of watching and interacting. And yet, this desire to try to paint them as invading monsters just doesn't hold water. I think with that level of technology, they could have. Um, it would have been an overnight thing, and we'd have never know what hit us. Obviously, they're not um, going to even make overt contact. I think with that level of technology, they could do everything they're doing here and remain undetected. So they're not landing on the White House lawn or making open contact of any kind, yet continual sightings, things that make us aware that they're there, but just on the edge of causing widespread panic or anything of that nature. And that's probably constructive if people could just absorb it for what it truly means.
Hmm.
They've been
Hmm.
here. They're not taking over. We're
Right.
not the end all be all of the universe.
Right. Um, I tell a story. I've told it a number of times in the show, but I'll just, in a nutshell, I talked to someone years ago before I was really looking into this topic in the 90s. And, basically, he told me they worked for the government, part of the Air Force that was, looking at UFOs during the Vietnam War type of thing. And when I asked him, what does the government think that they want from us, or what are they doing, or whatever, and he just said that we're a petri dish. That's what according to him, in the early 70s, when he was in that task force, or late 60s, that's supposedly what the government had relayed to
Well,
him.
that is their opinion, and it might be as good as any, or it could be right or wrong. It's
Hmm.
still, just like my opinion is just an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. um, let's see, when you regained consciousness inside the craft, do you remember what the very first sensory detail you recall, like sound, touch, or something else?
Just a light above me, just pain,
Hmm.
out of focus vision, uh, just gradually, trying to focus my eyes. The light wasn't very bright, but it still hurt my eyes. and I could make out the forms of what I took to be doctors at first. I knew I
Right.
was hurt. I felt injured, and I thought that I must have been taken to a hospital. But when I could finally focus, I could see this was definitely not a hospital, and these weren't doctors.
So scary. Now, I know when you showed back up, you just couldn't believe that it had been 5 days. But do you think your perception of time during those 5 days was altered? I mean, did it feel continuous or did it feel
Yes, the
fragmented or?
conscious period was continuous. So,
Mhm.
that's possible that there was some sort of time dilation effect, but easily possible that I was simply unconscious or dead all that time, uh, and came to, during the revival.
Mhm. Mhm. And do you think, I know you underwent regression hypnotherapy at one time, didn't you?
Pardon? Yeah, I underwent a regressive hypnosis.
And do you think that's possible that you still may have some memories blocked?
That's possible. Um, that seemed to be all that he was able to reveal. And
Mm,
I'm grateful that he did it in the way that he did it, was to place me there as a spectator, so to speak, observing what was happening rather than re-experiencing it. I think that would have been too traumatic. One of
oh,
the guys on the crew underwent hypnosis in which the technique was to have him relive it, and
mm.
it was extremely traumatic for him.
I bet. I mean, I can't even imagine, going through it the first time. But I mean, he wasn't. He was reliving the part where they were basically thinking that you were gone and dead, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about.
Well, no, I don't know. I wasn't there, but
Mm,
I understand he was bucking up and down and practically nauseous.
mm,
Just totally in tears and all that. No,
hmm.
uh, I wasn't there, but that's what I'm told.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
he's not going to want that out there. He read in my book that he was among those on the crew who were crying.
Mm,
And at first, he came with me and participated in talks and whatnot. But then his cousin started teasing him about being a crybaby.
oh,
So he demanded that I reprint the book and eliminate that and say that he never cried. He was strong and tough the whole time.
jeez, terrible.
So I can't say for sure, but nothing wrong with crying. I cried, Mike cried. The trauma
Oh
was
yeah.
nothing that anybody's ashamed of.
Right. Right. And what do you remember? I know that as far as I recall, you remember just seeing like the craft lifting up when you were brought back. Do you remember anything else? What did it feel like? Did you feel like you were waking up at that time?
Well, yeah, I regained consciousness pretty quickly, and my senses were pretty sharp immediately. It was the pavement was cold. I felt that immediately. The air
Mm,
around me was cold. I could tell I hadn't been in that position more than a few seconds. And the light above me drew my attention. I looked to see where it was coming from, but it went off before I was fully turned in that direction. But I could still see a craft with no light um, take off into the sky.
mm, hmm.
From where I was, I could recognize the town down below and went down there to get help.
Mm. And would you say that your clothing seemed exactly like the same as it was when?
Yes, it was. And my brother, I guess he had had some advice from some of the researchers on site while I was missing. but he took all of my clothing. I changed my clothes, and he took it all and sealed it up in a new plastic trash bag with the idea of having it examined later. But due to all of the incredible stuff that was going on, some things got thrown in to the trunk. On top of that, the bag was torn open, and it was considered, contaminated evidence at that point, and so there was no follow through there.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you feel as though there were any point afterwards that you may have changed in some type of way, through your perceptions or anything like that?
Well, it definitely had a huge psychological effect on me. I was very apprehensive about, a repeat or maybe lingering after effects of health things popping up later. But in spite of the fact that I was a workaholic for a number of years in order to suppress the memory, working 7 days a week, and I never got sick from it. I was expecting to, maybe something would come wrong, but in all those years afterwards, I never called in sick one time.
There's a question that's a little tricky because I've had some interactions, and I think I'm going to ask it anyway because I just wonder how you feel about it. And I hate bringing someone else into this type of way, but I saw that Mike Rogers was kind of attacking the whole story. And has that ever been resolved? Do you know? Or
that's resolved. I mean, he was developing diabetes. His blood sugar was out of control. He wound up being hospitalized a number of times on account of it. So, the one single tape that was made of him saying that was being sort of dragged out of him by the so-called interviewer, who had lied and said that, come on, tell us it never really happened because Travis is willing to do it, but we just can't meet his price.
Oh, no.
A total lie. He was lying flat out.
Oh, my God.
I was wise enough to record my conversation with this guy. I never said anything of the sort, but he deceived Mike, tricked him into feeling like here's an opportunity to, get paid for saying it didn't happen. Well, nobody's paying me to talk about what did happen. I'll say it didn't happen if you pay me. I mean, throughout that conversation with that guy, Mike was making reference after reference to buy me dinner. See, this is, I think, a symptom of his diabetes. His blood sugar was dropping. His speech was halting and vague, and it was really kind of strange. 1 minute he's saying, I'm setting my saw on a stump, and the next minute he's telling the guy that. But Mike denies that was the case at all, that he was speaking a kind of an as if thing that was fed to him that's not on the tape from this so-called investigator. That, Mike stands by it, and he's done interviews about it since then.
Oh, good.
That doesn't fit that scenario that he's going to fess up that it was all. It's really strange, though, don't you think? And if somebody got that out of somebody, then they wouldn't follow up and say, "Oh yeah, how's that? How do you know? Give me some detail." Nothing more was ever done. It was just dropped. I think the guy knew that wasn't a real confession. He was just going to sell it as one.
Right.
That's what he was interested in doing, is getting something.
Not surprising. It's not surprising because you look all the way back to when Philip Klass tried to bribe. Who was it? Was it Steve?
Steve Pierce offered him $10,000 to say it didn't happen.
I mean,
And,
isn't that incredible right there? They say follow the money. I wonder
yeah,
where that money, if you were to follow that offer, where that would lead.
yeah, especially since when he concluded his pursuit of this issue, he turned the whole investigation over to the CIA. It turns out, after Philip Klass passed away, that someone had filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, request of the FBI's investigation of Philip Klass. He was under extensive investigation, apparently for selling secrets that he acquired in his role as editor of Aviation Week and Space Technology. So, I've got a copy of that file that was sent to me, probably 25 pages, much of it blacked out. I'd love to see what they had on him. But just the fact that they were investigating him for betraying United States defense secrets says
That's
a whole lot about
espionage, really, right? I mean, that sounds like an espionage case to me.
Well, another thing that was really strange that seemed so psychological about it to me was Mike and I were on the Larry King show, and Larry brought Philip Klass in on a monitor. He'd never been in my presence ever. That was the closest he ever came. And he leveled everything at Mike Rogers. He didn't say anything to me, didn't acknowledge anything. And yet, although he devoted parts of several books to attacking the case on the basis of what was said to Mike and whatnot, he never attempted to contact me ever. Now, here's his number one case, his main thing that he's devoted parts of several books, and he never attempted to call me at all. I'm not trying to insinuate anything. I find it puzzling. Why in the world would he just let that go? You would think that'd be the guy you could corner and trip him up and get him to say something. Didn't happen.
Okay, so now it's the 50-year mark. I mean, it's so hard to believe, the 50-year mark. And when you look back now, do you see anything besides the rescue thing, which I think is something you've come up with in the last, I don't know how many years, but do you see things differently in any type of way?
Yeah, I speculate, I've thought, well, our government, our military has satellites that are observing things from up there, and maybe they saw the whole thing. They knew what happened. But aside from that, it seems that there's a reason for this sort of allowing their presence to be perceived, but not in the kind of a way that would totally disrupt everything.
Yeah, people have asked me a number of times, well, why do UFOs have lights? I mean, it's kind of a bizarre thing, so do they want to be detected? Some people say, well, maybe that's the way, something to do with their propulsion or something like that. But there's
Probably
a
some
lot
of
of speculation.
both, some of both. The one that dropped me off, it turned the light off. Maybe it was a hatch closing, but at that point, it was not glowing. It was just very shiny, metallic, and shot up into the sky.
Wow. Now, I will ask you something I don't think I've ever asked you before. Are there any other UFO cases that you think are really intriguing? I mean, do you have like a case that you think, other than your own, that you think really is, very spectacular?
I've refused to pass judgment on any other cases because I haven't investigated any. And that was what my main objection to the criticism I was getting. People didn't even have the basic facts of the case, and they were talking about all kinds of things, and it was just so far off. It was silly. How can they pass judgment on some people when they don't even know what actually happened? They didn't have any documentation for the things that they were lodging against us. But so I've I can tell you that there are cases that I consider to be exceptional, but I can't name them because that's a slippery slope. Pretty soon the people are going to be wondering, well, how about this one? What do you think of that one?
I see.
I'm not going to be judge and jury on a bunch of cases that I have not investigated.
Have you followed at all any of the Washington, D.C. hearings?
Actually, I didn't. I've heard that they're looking into it, but I expected it would be unrevealing, and the secrecy would be maintained. But I don't resent the government for doing that. I think that's necessary. They have to keep the secrets that they have. People are, come on, throw open the files. Let's just see what you got. Well, if there's anything of a technological nature that could be useful in terms of our enemies on the planet, there's a couple of other big nations that would love to have the information that we might have recovered. They probably have information they recovered. But if we said, okay, we'll throw open our files if you'll open yours, would we really get everything they had? No. I think it serves as a sort of a break on aggression, because they don't know what kind of technology we might have to defend ourselves with. And so, everybody keeping their secrets is probably a good thing.
I understand. I get a lot of what you're saying, and I agree, because unfortunately it's human nature to
human nature is we
think,
love to know what they have. Come on, come out with it,
Well, human nature is also, what way can we kill you? What is a better way to kill someone?
Everything's going to get weaponized. That would happen. And I'm sure they know that. And it could very quickly accelerate into a deteriorating situation almost immediately.
Right. Whoever holds the most cards. You think about, also my own opinion of this is that I don't think the government knows everything about them. And because of that, they're not going to, they can't
that's
say
an embarrassment for them too, of course. In order to justify their interest in the subject, they have to sort of classify it as a threat. But on the other hand, even if they knew there is no threat, they can't be embarrassed by basically saying, we don't know. That would breed a lot of dissatisfaction with them who are supposed to be serving our needs and satisfying our curiosity.
Right. And also protecting, that's another thing. They if they don't know, that means they don't know what it is. They don't know how to protect us if need be, really.
Well, if people want to assume that it's a threat, but I don't. Like I said, they've been doing this for decades, many, many years. And so if they had sinister plans, we'd never know what hit us. We'd be gone in a day, overnight.
I believe that. I believe 100%. And, there's been a few cases where it might seem like there's been aggression, and some of that may very well be, but some of that might be exactly what you feel happened to you as well.
Accidental or misunderstood. But you have to think that being super advanced in intelligence would make you more moral. I mean, because evil is stupid.
Yeah.
Evil is a manifestation of ignorance in some way. And I don't see how you can be in possession of massive amounts of technology and understanding this kind of stuff. Because if they were evil, they would have destroyed each other before getting to us. I mean, that's the nature of, weaponizing everything. I don't think that's the case. It's
Yeah, I mentioned this before on my show, but I had Jeffrey Bennett, who was a visiting scientist, astrophysicist at NASA, and he said the water cooler talk was, if a society can get through the bottleneck of technology without blowing themselves up, they'll be traveling the stars. I always thought that was one of my favorite lines I heard someone say on my show.
yeah. And it makes sense,
Yeah.
The early Europeans coming to the less developed primitive nations in South America, Africa, the contact was destructive in almost every case. It disrupted things that had been in place for a very long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Another question someone asked me to ask you, did you experience any unusual dreams, perceptions, or heightened awareness in the years after the incident?
Yeah, I did. I had some dreams that I thought, could this be other memories that are coming back spontaneously? So I asked Tracy Torme, who had researched the case and written the book, Fire in the Sky, about my case, if he thought that this could be memories coming back to me. And he says, no, they're probably just dreams. But then a few years later, I asked him the same question, and he seemed to forget his earlier opinion and said, oh, yeah, those could be memories coming back. But I never pursued it, and I haven't pursued additional hypnosis, especially after hearing about Steve's traumatic hypnosis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Has this incident? You said you were a workaholic, working 7 days a week. Did it ever affect your work life in any type of way? I mean, people obviously must recognize you a lot over the years. I mean, like,
Yeah, I had to
say,
work very hard to regain some credibility and have them see me strictly for what I could do in the job and perform, and I think I won that because I got some respect on the job. I became the head of maintenance at the first corporation, and also uh, positions of higher responsibility in the second one. So apparently they appreciated my groundedness, if we can call it that.
Great. Someone wanted to know if you could talk a little bit more about the Fire in the Sky movie that might be coming out. Do you have any other details on that? The when and
No,
all that?
I don't want to talk too much about the new movie. The script was undertaken. It starts in a different position. It's later in the series of events. I thought it was wrong in the original movie to start where it did. It's out of sequence. I think the audience needs to be grounded in what things were like before everything went crazy. But the script is not complete, and that comes first. You don't get any sort of production company. You don't get any commitment from studios or anything until they have a completed script.
Right. Yep. I totally get that. Someone wanted to know, did you see an orb? I never heard about this before, but was there an orb underneath the craft?
Yeah, I've seen in my life an orb. I was with a large group of people headed to Phoenix to go. I think we were going there for a movie there was I think it might have been a movie, but anyway, this glowing it was overcast. We could see the clouds were lit up. But what happened was this giant, it was huge, sphere, glowing sphere came down through the clouds, moved across, and went back up into the clouds. My future wife's sister said, "Is it the end of the world?" I mean, it was that scary. But that was it. It was just a sighting, very huge, dramatic. But when you're looking at a sphere or something, object in the sky, you don't have any measurements to compare it to. So
Right.
the angle subtended judges the size. The size of this sphere was many, many, many times what the moon or the sun or anything like that would be. So it was huge.
Wow, isn't that something? And the term you just said about the end of the world type of thing, so many people have said that they felt like it was the end of the world when they saw their sighting. Was there any part of that incident where you thought they're back?
Well, it was so, standing by itself kind of a thing. Heck, even after that, I had a sighting of one of the giant black triangles.
Really?
Yeah. Jan Harzan, the head of MUFON, was giving a speech in Burbank, California. And Tracy Torme, the writer of the movie script, the Travis, the Fire in the Sky movie, had given a talk that night. And my son and I and my girlfriend were leaving Burbank, driving north up to the freeway across to Arizona, when we saw this light in the distance. But it came at us so quickly that it very, very almost immediately was visible as three lights. And it was a gigantic black triangle that moved quicker than any. When you see a jet plane coming in for a landing at the airport, it looks like it's just crawling through the sky, when you know that if it wasn't going a couple 100 miles an hour at least, it'd fall out of the sky. Well, this thing was moving many, many times faster than that. Wow. And it was huge. It was, I thought maybe a quarter of a mile across. It was gigantic.
Wow.
And very low, so low.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a light on each point of the triangle. And it seemed that these lights, if they were lights, because they had a sort of a shimmering glow to them, I think they might have been something that had to do with what was supporting it,
What about in the center? Was there anything? Did you see a light in the center as well?
I've heard many reports that there have been lights in the center. I saw none in this case. And my girlfriend could look straight up through the back window and see the surface of it. It was a sort of a matte, semi-gloss, textured black surface. But it's huge. And the point of the triangle that was towards us when it arrived turned to its right 90 degrees and then shot off impossibly quickly towards the Pacific Ocean. Now, I wouldn't have even reported this because there was only us three witnesses, but turned out that a website called UFOstalker.com was taking reports, and more than a dozen people reported seeing the same thing. It was set up on a sort of a Google Maps kind of a thing, a circle with numbers. And each of these people were people who didn't even know each other, but they were all in that area at that time, at that date, and saw the same thing. So this is something that many people see and report. Sometimes there's a light in the center of the triangle. If it was aliens, it was them saying, "Hello, we're still here," kind of because what are the odds that it would stop right over the top of us in a highly populated area in the vicinity of Los Angeles?
Amazing.
But if it was the government wanting to get me to report it as a UFO, that would fit too. But where would they park such a gigantic thing? It's so huge you couldn't hide it.
I've often said that. I don't. They can't build a hangar that big when people are talking about something being, a mile wide or whatever. It's just impossible. But I can't believe our time is up. I want to thank you so much, and I'll be seeing you in just a couple of weeks down the road.
See you then.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you coming on. I know how tired you are. I hope you get some good rest, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.
See you later. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. All right, everyone. So we'll be back next week with Nugent Cataliano and Jensine Anderson. And I just want to play this clip for the Fire in the Sky Summit right here on the way out of the show. Thanks again, and keep your eyes to the sky.